The question reads that these entrepreneurs may need to find resourceful ways that make their company seem large. Now, a vertical scan through the beginning of the answer choices reveals that there are these differences which might not be something that one might be immediately able to tackle. But then at the end of the answer choices, we do have a split between the large and the larger. Now, we can decide using this because if you notice the rest of the sentence, it says than they may actually be. So we have a than here. So if we have a than, should I say that they want their companies to seem large than or larger than? Of course, there is also the more established here, but please keep in mind that if you read the logic of the question, they actually want to make the company seem larger and more established than they may actually be, right? So we know that large cannot work here because large than is not the correct idiomatic construction. It should be larger than, all right? So we can get rid of A and E. There is also another reason why we can get rid of A and E. It's because of this vertical difference between companies and company. See, keep in mind that whenever you see any pronoun mentioned in a sentence, check for what that pronoun is referring to, whether the pronoun is in the underline or the non-underlined portion. We need to make sure that the pronoun is properly referring to some noun as well as matching in number with that noun. So you see, the non-underlined portion says, than they may actually be. So we know that we have a plural pronoun here, and A and E have the singular noun company. So A and E are out. So we can use either of these approaches or either of these concepts to actually get rid of these choices. Now, when we take a vertical scan, B, C, D say larger, so no issues. B, C, D say companies, so no issues. But if you notice, B, C say their companies, whereas D says the companies. Now, these entrepreneurs may need to find resourceful ways so that the companies seem larger. Now, just think about this logical difference. If I say their companies, we're talking about the companies that belong to the entrepreneurs, right? This their pronoun is referring to the entrepreneurs. So obviously it's their companies. But if I simply say the companies, I'm using the definite article the to refer to a specific set of companies. That's fine. But whose companies are these exactly? And because of this logical ambiguity, B and C are better, we can get rid of D delta. Now, the main split that we can notice between B and C is B says to make their company seem larger, whereas C says thus making their company seem larger. Now, I want to refer back to the explanation that I gave for question number 776 of the official guide 2020, in which I talked about when the conjunction thus can be used. See, I did mention that hence and thus, so you can go and check that explanation as well. Hence and thus are similar, but hence is used for an outcome in the future, whereas thus is used to talk about an outcome in the past. So if you go by what the logic says, it says the entrepreneurs may need to find resourceful ways, may need to find, right? So it is kind of a possibility, it is kind of something that they need to do in order to make their company seem larger, correct? So if I say thus, it kind of makes it look as if this is something that has already taken place. So since we're not talking about the past, the usage of thus in answer choice C is incorrect. So C goes off, leaving us with the right answer choice B for Bravo. So if you look at the logic here, the entrepreneurs may need to find resourceful ways to make their companies. So I have the to plus verb here, right? So what does the to plus verb mean? This is the infinitive form of the verb, the infinitive form. And the infinitive form is generally used to convey intent or purpose of something, all right, to convey the intent or the purpose. So why are they finding these resourceful ways to make their companies seem larger? So B's logic is perfect.